This is Marketing Jam, a show featuring the brightest minds in marketing.
Brought to you by Canada Post. Head to canadapost.ca/insight podcast for ideas to add value to your marketing.
Welcome to another episode of Marketing Jam. I'm Darian, and I wanted to start by saying thanks to our friends at Canada Post who send us magazines every quarter to inspire us, encourage us, and give us incredible case studies. I'm sure Ryan has had clients in this, who is our guest right now. I'm sure he will be featured in this in future episodes of Insight Magazine, a physical magazine that you could have sent to your agency office, your brand office, your dorm room, wherever you're listening in from. They will mail you one of these magazines for free, which is pretty awesome. So thank you, Canada Post. Ryan, it is an honor to have you here. I've been following you guys for a while. The Cult Gathering is famous in my books, and I've always wanted to go. I've never gone myself. I've always dreamed of one day going. It's like the Disneyland for marketers and those in agency life. But Ryan, why don't we start with you? What is your origin story? How did you get to where you are today?
I've always been, from day one, a person that figures it out. There's literally nothing that can't be figured out with a little bit of effort and a lot of creativity and options. And so I started as an entrepreneur. I don't know how far you want me to go back. I was born, and then I went to school. But around 11 years old or 12 years old, I started collecting golf balls, shining them up, and reselling them. And it's like the ultimate business, low overhead costs. My brothers did it for free. I shined them up and did the marketing and no product costs. And so I would make money, and early in my life, my friends would always be like, "How do you have money?" And I would be like, "I work for it, and I do this golf ball thing on the weekends, and it makes me a lot of money." And what money did for me was allow me to do stuff, and I was like, "I like that." And so then I did horrible in school, got kicked out when I was 17, ended up moving from Ontario. I lived in a small town called Brockville. A gritty little town, which I still love. It's on the St. Lawrence River. It's just across from New York State, and right on the border. And there was no real industry happening there. And I wanted to get out of Ontario. I wanted to try something new. So when I was about 18, 19, I moved out west to Calgary. And I kind of came into, there's ups and downs in Calgary, but kind of walked into a boom. Did a bit of schooling, again, was shitty at it, and jumped into an agency. Worked at an agency for a while, thought I can do this myself. Two of the guys, the creative guys there, we went out on our own, started an agency called Suitcase, a digital agency in the early 2000s. That seems like, I think people will be like, well, that was later in the internet world. No one had websites at that time. They still didn't. So we were knocking on doors saying, "You want a website?" And they were like, "No, that's like we're gambling and porn. That's all that's on the internet, right?" This is what they're saying to me. And so we built a great agency, grew explosive growth up till about 2007, and then a horrible decline. I almost lost the company. It was really tough times emotionally, and going through losing people, losing business, and we saved it. And then we built it back up over the next 3 years and sold it in 2011 to a company called Watermark. I probably lasted 6 days in my contract of non-compete, and I had to work for them. I went back to the owners of that company and said, "I'd like to give you some of the money back. I want to be an owner in this new company and a partner." They allowed me to do that, and then that new company actually became the company called Cult, in which I'm wearing a shirt proudly today. And
that's cool. What was it called when you joined them originally?
It was called, this is a really creative name, Watermark Suitcase. My company was called Suitcase Interactive, and they were Watermark, so we put a plus in the middle. That was horrible. And we needed to become, and the reason wasn't just a cool name. We wanted to stand for something different. We didn't want to be a digital agency because we felt that was commoditized, and we didn't want to be an ad agency because we knew the demise was happening there, a traditional agency. And so we really formed at that time, which we called a marketing consulting firm that was platform agnostic. And that business is still going today. It exploded and grew, and it's became at least famous in the U.S. and Canada. We've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, and it's still going today. And I'm the chairman of it now. I don't operate it anymore. I still have an ownership stake in it, but I've moved on, stepped down about as president. I think I stepped down 2 years ago, and then we started the gathering as well. You mentioned that earlier. About a year into cult as a way to, rather than us talking about cult principles all the time, we thought we'd rather show people what cult principles are all about and those brands that people tattoo on their bodies. And so we just put them on stage, and honestly, it was supposed to be a 1-year thing, and now it's turned into Forbes names it #1 marketing conference in the world, and it's so humbling. And I definitely didn't do it. It's been a team effort, and so I'm trying to think about what else you need to hear from me. I think that's the gathering, and then lately it's been last 2 years it's been Communo, my latest startup that we're just still figuring out what we're doing.
Okay, and what is Communo for those that don't know?
Yeah, so Communo is a marketing platform or marketplace for agencies and freelancers or solopreneurs, as they call them, and it's a private network. It's not an open marketplace. You can just join. You have to apply to it. And it's the first time that all the right talent is all in one place. We all know about the sharing economy, and as you know this in your marketing, it's agency of record deals are not going away; they're gone. Right? The average deal now is 6 to 12 months, maybe 3 months. So the ebbs and flows of running an agency is really hard. Or for those watching, if you don't know this, but our only product is people. And so we sell people's brains and their thoughts, and it's really hard when you don't have long-term contracts to keep everyone on staff. And so there needed to be a solution, and we needed it for our agency because you're really busy 1 month. So for instance, Home Depot would pay us $1 million 1 month in fees, $1.5 million. That's great. The next month they pay us $75,000. The next month they pay us $50,000. The next month it's $2 million. It's just really impossible to manage the volatility, and so we needed a solution for our company. So Chris, my co-founder, and I said, step down from cult, go build this thing. And really the vision for it was simple, was can I just press a button and I can have everyone I need at the press of a button? It's in every other industry, why not here? And so we started that journey 2 years ago, and if I had known how hard it was going to be to build a marketplace, I definitely wouldn't have done it. After 20 years of doing hard work, this has been the hardest. But I'll tell you this: it's the most inspirational, it's the most rewarding, and no one's ever done it right. And there's lots of platforms out there like Upwork and different things like that, and they just don't deliver. They're not bad people; they just don't deliver the right quality. So we're trying to bring all the right talent all in one place, and at a push of a button, you can have whoever you need. And there's no borders, right? Clearly, not everyone's going to be in Brockville or Calgary that you need to work on your project. Yeah. So to build a global platform like this, it's such an honor. And to be able to give back to the industry that gave me so much, it's cool.
So would you say Chris's role with the cult, being a user of Communo, has been really helpful as you're building Communo? He is one of your customers, would you say?
Yeah. So Communo was the Genesis members. We built it for Cult, sorry. And so Cult is the Genesis member of Communo, but obviously now we have over 40,000 users on the platform around the world, and so we still test stuff on us. And they say when you're building a startup, you should always build something for yourself, solve a problem for yourself. Then you're going to have passion for it, you're going to understand it, and that is so true for us. And so we know what we want, and so we built it for ourselves. And we're lucky because now 40,000 people and growing also want to use it. So
that's really cool.
It's exciting. And we just raised our seed round for $3.5 million, $3.3 million, and we're really focusing now, which your listeners can hear, we're building something called a compatibility quotient or Communo quotient that is really around matching, not just on proficiencies and skills, but personality. We all know when we work with people, it's not just about are they good. There can be someone really good, a really great designer, videographer, and they're a total asshole, or they're disorganized. And so we're working on pairing social science and compatibility with data science of skills and trying to mix the two, and it's very exciting.
Like eHarmony.
Yep.
That's really, really cool. So there's an agency that launched out here in Vancouver called 123 West. They launched with this hilarious website full of Fiverr videos.
Really?
And they became famous because it was, they were saying it's based after the movie industry, where it's like you get a movie producer who then gets hired to do a movie and then assembles his team, and then it's disassembled until the next movie comes along. So his agency model was 2 creative directors, or a few of them, and then they just build their team for the project, and then they go and then build the team for the project. Is this kind of the idea here?
It's amazing. You basically are reading from my deck when we're raising money. The 2 industries that we modeled after were Hollywood, which changed a lot. I don't know if they told you the story. It used to be Hollywood would have studios and they'd have actors that are on staff. Mm-hmm. They'd have video, they'd have DOPs, and they'd have actors, writers. Everyone would be on staff, but that didn't work, right? When you're turning over. So, and then the second industry we modeled after was the building industry, construction industry. Mm-hmm. So you have your home builder, but the electrician, the plumber, they're not on staff. They're contract. The word contractor, we all know, came from that industry. And so we're moving there. In the knowledge economy, people want to work from home. They want to work from anywhere they want. It's a perfect storm. There's no long-term contracts anymore. Clients are figuring out the advertising game where people were just sitting around, drinking cocktails most of the time. And they just said no more. And you know what? I don't blame them. And I was part of the problem. I ran agencies that did that. We still did good work. We were honest people, but it was pretty fat. We could operate, I don't know how long you've been in the business, but we could operate at 40%, 50% utilization, and that was like a standard. That's horrible. Like, what other industry allows that? So I think we're being, the industry as a whole, it's an important time for us because I think we're going to regain trust because we have to get leaner and you pay for outputs, not just for time.
That's great. It's almost the other piece being is that agencies that would call themselves full service, but they would outsource 50% of the work.
A huge imposter syndrome. I did it, right? You want to say yes, and so I love this. It's actually going to allow people to be experts and also be able to say yes. The full service thing went away. I went to experts or specialty shops, which I think will continue. But I think what Communo and platforms like ours will give, because we're not the only dog in the race. Platforms like ours will give creatives so much infinite scale now, and they can say yes to their clients and say, we can do that. I'm on Communo, and we don't do web design. We're a creative shop, but I have 7 people in my tribe on Communo that can do it for you, and we know they're good. So it's exciting times. We also have no clue what we're doing. We're figuring it out as we go. I love that humility. I've tried to put it in the team to say, listen, we're doing good, and we're like last year, $25 million went through the platform. That's huge. That's not anything to joke around about. So it's a real business, but we still are figuring it out. And I think having that attitude of we don't know shit allows us to be curious and try stuff and screw up.
Cool. And all the marketers and CMOs and agency folks that are listening to the show now, and they've maybe heard about the cult gathering, they've considered going, they were intimidated by the website or intimidated by the price. What do you say to them? What's the magic that happens at the cult gathering? Yeah,
the gathering, so we started it, I'll give a little history too. So when we started Cult, I told you at the beginning of this podcast, was right out of the gate, we got Harley Davidson. So our firm Cult got Harley Davidson. We started working with Zappos early, these really cult-like brands. And instantly we started to get these cult brands, but there's not a lot of them in the world, right? There's millions of brands, but cult status is there's hundreds. So our great idea became holy shit, what did we do idea, because we really went niche. And so the birth of the gathering was actually supposed to be a Trojan horse. And we were going to bring these people in, give them an award, and then try to sell them. Literally an hour into the first year, 7 years ago, I called all hands with my team and said, nobody sell anybody anything. That was the wrong move. The first couple sessions there, I'm like, people need to hear these stories. Let's not ruin it by a sales pitch. And from that time on, just so you know, and now everyone can know, because I think people still think it's a cult thing that we sell stuff. We actually have a rule at Cult. We produce the gathering. We cannot work with any clients for at least 2 years if they show up at our event, like people we put on stage. So it allows them to be totally safe and protected that they can share stuff, and we're not there to pitch them. Do we love to work with them down the road? Sure, but it's not our mission anymore. We put a rule in place to say that's not going to happen. It's made it more authentic. So what people can expect of that is it's so opposite from other conferences you go to. It's called a summit. It's not handing out business cards. You're not getting cards. You're getting connections. The speakers are walking around the floor. They're not being rushed off places. And it's the reason why is because they know that we set the table. It's not really a come and get clients. At the same time, millions of dollars has been done there because people actually build real relationships. And as far as content goes, we just celebrate courage. These cult brands most of them don't advertise. They literally don't advertise. Harley Davidson, for instance, they spend say they have $100 million marketing budget, they spend 80 to 90 million on their existing customers. So they play by a different playbook, all of them. And oftentimes culture and music is involved in what they do. They invest in the culture. They don't advertise. And so we really shine a spotlight on these brands that do it. And it doesn't mean they don't do any advertising. Of course they do, but they don't have a reliance on it. They're not addicted to the spikes of that advertising brings. And so they have these rabid fans that, like I said earlier, they don't just buy from them, they buy in and they literally tattoo their brand on their body. And that would be, I think we could both agree, and everyone watching, that would be the ultimate, buy-in from your customer if they get a tattoo. So, and we have an 8-point scorecard. We've partnered with IBM Watson to not just pick our favorite brands. They also have to perform well. They have to have engaged audiences. So it's became more art and science as well, who we choose. And I don't know what to say, man. Everyone tells me they leave happier. And I think it's because they get exposed to courage and they believe that they can do it too. And we, like a music festival, we put the headliners on stage. So this year, like Coke and Spotify, those types of brands are big. But then we also have a category called emerging cult brands. And it's brands like Neutral, which is from BC, Sage. Yeah. We got these other brands that we brought through to say these are brands that are up and coming, but they're playing by the same playbook. So I think everyone feels inspired by the big headliners, but they also get hands-on knowledge of how to do it from these small up-and-comers, and then people just feel connected, and it's fun, man. It's in the Rockies and Banff. You feel trapped. You go to have you been to conferences before? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you're at a conference in Toronto, New York, Vancouver, you leave the conference center and then you're in Vancouver, and you spread out. When you're in Banff, you don't really leave the castle. It's at the Banff Springs, this castle, and even if you go into town, you run into people. So it feels like people call it like a destination wedding that you go to every year and you see the same people, and I love that.
Very cool. It's very cool. So for you, Ryan, how about you? Are you an iOS, Android guy? What are you using on your phone?
iOS.
Okay. And apps that you can't live without. What's your kind of go-to in kind of your daily life?
My home screen is, I have one called Memento. So I'll show my screen. Which is a journaling app. Audible. So I'd like to listen to books. I have a sleep app to see how my sleep's going. Communo is on my home screen, Communo app. And then I have one called Habit Share, which I love starting habits, but I want to be held accountable. So this is actually with my counselor and my business coach. They can see what I've been doing and keep me accountable. And then I don't know if you've heard of this new app it's a media company called The Athletic. It's a new sports property, and it's subscription-based, no ads, and it's an amazing app. So those are my favorite apps.
And tell me about that last app. What does that one do?
So The Athletic is, so they've went ahead and from the ground up went and collected all these great journalists that are, as you know, journalists went through a real dark era there over the last 10 years, 15 years. And from the beginning, they were subscriptions. So no ads, people would pay, and they went out and started paying those great journalists, those investigative journalists in the sports world, big bucks to come and cover stories and write amazing content. And there's video content and written, and it's just done in the UX is beautiful. And then they obviously put social in there as well, so you can talk about, with other people that like the St. Louis Blues like I do, you can reach them. It's just amazing where media is gone, and they are knocking it out of the park. I would say they'll be the biggest sports media like brand in the next 5 years. Like they're just doing it right.
So speaking of branding and people making an impact, what's a piece of maybe mail or something you got delivered to you that had a big impact?
Something that got delivered to me. This is a cool thing. I'll show you this. So this is a key that one of my people at the gathering gave me after year 2. And he gave me this and said, hold on to this because what you're building at the gathering is super important. And it's going to unlock a lot of things for you personally, relationships, but it's going to more importantly unlock a lot of relationships and ideas for other people. And it was the coolest thing. I was like, this guy went out of his way, got this key made, and you can see it there. It's got like the logo on it and stuff. And that's when you said that stuck out to me as one that I love getting physical mail. I do that myself. I always send people handwritten cards and stuff. It stands out, right?
That's really cool. And I know that you're busy with Communo. You got the cult gathering coming up. But for you, like just recently, what's a brand that you've been following and just loving? And I know you can't say who's your favorite kid and what's your favorite brand, but if you could just mention one that like we should all be checking out and watching right now.
Yeah, so because I really think they do meaningful work. It's a brand that's been around forever, but they're at the gathering this year, Coke, and it's a weird brand to say, but they've been around for so long and they reinvent themselves. And Jeff Cottrell's the CMO there, or SVP marketing. I don't know. They have different words for them or titles at Coke. But they're just commitment to continue to reinvent and be part of culture and just be present and give back. He has this awesome line in the video that we played. He's like, we've had an impact on culture, but more so culture than an impact on us. And I love brands that do that. The second one is, even though I was talking about The Athletic, I love what Barstool Sports has done. They will hopefully be at the gathering in 2021, but Erica, their CEO, she really went into a boys' world and revolutionized that industry. And I think they just sold or had a valuation of $450 million, where just 3 or 4 years ago they were $5 million in revenue or something like that. And the reason why is they were true to their brand. They didn't try to please everyone. Most people hate them, and cult brands care less about that. They care about who their core audience is, and so that's a brand I love. And then this is a weird one. I'll throw one more out. I love the Las Vegas brand. Again, they're not for everyone, right? But they landed on what happens here stays here, and they're cool with that. When they did that, I think it was 18, 19 years ago, they were trying to be confident. They still do all those things, but they just went through the roof. And again, people hate Vegas. And I think to be loved, you got to be hated. And that's something that is hard for people to accept.
Ryan, it's been a real pleasure to have you on the show. I've been following what you've been doing for a long time, and it's such an honor. And I hope the cult gathering goes incredible this year. And Communo, people can check it out. So both agency owners or those that are freelancers, it sounds like small agencies, large agencies, whoever you are, check out Communo. Can help you find the right resources and the people you need. Much like movie studios and home builders. Very cool. I like those analogies. Everyone, thank you for joining us on Marketing Jam. Whether you're watching it and you get to see Ryan's cool office, I assume that's where you work, and his cool shirt and his hat. If you're not watching, make sure you check out Ryan and his office. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week on Marketing Jam.